Good morning, it's Tuesday, Lag B'Omer, Parshas Bahar B'Chikoisai, Oile Kova Datano, Chai Ir Tuvshim Pai Vuv. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm here with the news of the last 24 hours. On Edge. Very unlike a news anchor to sing, huh? Alright.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
Hayoim shloishu shloishim yoim shahai marbushu v'yois v'chamish yomim lu oimer. And it's Hoid Shebehoid. May 5th, 2026. Another shooter was caught near the White House yesterday. The US has just launched Project Freedom, like I said yesterday, causing intense battles in the Strait of Hormuz and intense battles between Donald J. Trump and Hakeem Jeffries on a separate case. Well, between him and Jeffries, it's not a war, it's an operation. Good one, right? The UAE was caught in the ceasefire causing an explosion at the Fujairah oil industry zone, and scientists have successfully created a full map of a healthy human liver. Stay tuned for the rest of the breaking news during the past 24 hours, only here on Edge. If you haven't yet shared this with your friends, please do so. Like and subscribe and do all the other things that you're supposed to be doing when you hear something and you like it and you want to share it with a friend and spread the news, as they say. I promised my daughter a new camera for Hakeem. Now, might I say, I didn't have the patience to wait for Amazon and call and look on screens and stuff, so I called Ring and Go. Okay, this is the barcode right here below. You can scan it. I also needed a new kosher phone, so I didn't have the time to figure out patience to the service and the text messaging and Ring and Go does it all. They have it all. And if you mention On Edge, they will give you a special gift with a purchase, especially for the On Edge listeners. Okay, so Ring and Go, that is ring in, like an N, go.us, and it's 347-480-7455, or the barcode below. Okay, it disappeared already, so let's continue. That's a cue. A shooting incident happened near the White House in Washington, D.C., after U.S. Secret Service agents confronted an armed man. The event led to a brief lockdown of the White House area where Trump was giving a live speech. According to reports, the Secret Service said its officers spotted a suspicious individual near the National Mall close to the Washington Monument. The man appeared to have a firearm. When agents tried to approach him, he ran away. During the chase, he pulled out his weapon and fired out at the officers. Now, Secret Service agents then returned fire and shot the man. He was taken to hospital, but his condition has not been confirmed. A young bystander, a juvenile, was also injured during the incident, obviously from the crossfire. Officials believe the child was likely hit by gunfire from the suspect, but this is still being investigated. The incident caused a temporary lockdown of the White House as a safety measure. Security forces quickly secured the area, and roads nearby were closed while police investigated the scene. No Secret Service officers were injured, obviously. The shooting happened shortly after a motorcade carrying Vice President J.D. Vance passed through the area. Officials said there is currently no clear evidence that the Vice President or the White House was the target of the attack. Deputy Director of the Secret Service, Matthew Quinn, gave details about the incident. He said agents first noticed that what looked like a gun on the suspect. He also explained that when officers moved in, the situation escalated quickly and the suspect opened fire. Quinn said, "I'm not going to guess on that whether or not it was directed to the president or not. I don't know. But we will find out," and he added that investigators are still working to understand the motive. In the meantime, they're not going to wait to find out the motive. They shot him. The incident is now being investigated by local and federal authorities, including the Metropolitan Police Department there in Washington, D.C. Officials are also checking if the event is linked to any recent security threats in Washington, like from Iran or something like that. The event caused concerns because it happened very close to one of the most secure government buildings in the United States. However, officials said the situation was quickly controlled and there is no continuing threat to the White House as of now. All right, this is the story for now. The United States launched a full-scale military operation yesterday to force open the Strait of Hormuz. The operation is called Project Freedom, and it sent more than 100 land and sea-based planes into the strait, along with guided missile destroyers, naval drones, and 15,000 troops. The goal? Break Iran's blockade and keep commercial shipping moving. As you know, the Strait of Hormuz is the strategic waterway that carries roughly a third of the world's oil there. It's so important that Trump announced military support for all neutral ships that want to pass through. Unfortunately, Iran wants full control over this waterway. It said that it will decide which ships can pass. As expected, the two countries fought. Iranian forces fired cruise missiles at American Navy ships and launched drones at commercial vessels. Now, the United States forces sank at least 6 Iranian fast boats and shot down every missile and drone that came their way. While doing this, they escorted commercial ships through safe paths. This incident a Mirask vessel. This included, a Marisk. Who cares how to pronounce it? A vessel, which is the first confirmed ship that safely passed under U.S. military protection. However, Iran's Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC, claimed that it hit a U.S. warship yesterday, and it forced it to flee. The U.S. tells the story differently. According to CENTCOM, Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, none of the U.S. ships were even hit. So it's fake news. The United Arab Emirates, the UAE, wasn't so lucky though. Iran also struck them with 12 ballistic missiles yesterday, 3 cruise missiles and 4 drones. President Trump confirmed at least 1 Iranian missile broke through the UAE air defenses and caused damage on the ground. Trump, however, declined to call the missile strikes a ceasefire violation. He said that the Iranian fire was, in his words, not heavy firing, but American officials said that the U.S. is now moving closer to resuming large-scale military operations against Iran because of this. Any final decision rests, obviously, with the President of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump. After 2 months of war with Iran, its nuclear timeline was barely moved. Before the war started, U.S. intelligence estimated Iran was about a year away from building a full-scale nuclear weapon. Today, nothing has changed. That estimate is still about a year away. Intelligence officials say that Iran's nuclear program only suffered limited damage. This is why airstrikes alone may not be enough. Analysts say that the real target would need to be Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, which is buried right now under the rubble, or taken away somewhere. This is the material already processed to weapons grade, and it's dangerous. Trump acknowledged the problem directly. He explained that they want the uranium that were buried after the attacks, but he added, people don't even know if you can get to it, basically. 2 people from the Trump's team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, are still sharing draft deals with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The talks are moving slowly. Officials say messages are being carried by hand to secret places. This is partly because they were not sure where Iran's top leader is, or they aren't sure. They don't know where he is. Who knows where he is? He's crippled or somewhere. I don't know where. Other officials do not foresee positive results from the talks. One said clearly, either a real deal is close or Trump may attack Iran again. Senator Lindsey Graham also insisted that Iran broke the ceasefire. He called for a strong, costly, but short attack. Trump echoed this statement when he told Fox News that Iran must make a fair deal or fighting could start again. The United States is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on Iran right now, as you can see, by commissioning this blockade. You have to understand something. I heard from Sean Hannity on Fox News when he interviewed former General Kellogg. Now, he asked him the following questions. What essentially is the goal of this war? So the United States right now, with the blockade, their goal is to pressure Iran into obviously crippling their economy, just like their leader is, if you think about it. But the point is that they're losing $500 million a day already. Now, as you understand, he also suggested that if the United States also takes Karg Island, essentially by not bombing it, he said, by taking over Karg Island, then they could also have major leverage, because that will mean they basically are choking the heartbeat of Iran's export and import of oil. And this is another step ahead. Another thing they discussed, and this is I heard from President Trump himself, and obviously on this interview between Sean Hannity and General Kellogg, what you have to understand is that, Trump said that Iran right now is in a they have no negotiating powers anymore, and they know it, and they're admitting to it. But what the problem is, they're too proud to admit it. And here's the problem. The IRGC is the problem. The IRGC is the terrorist organization. It's essentially the external, it's the threat. It's what's keeping this thing going. The Basij is the locals. They keep the population in control. That's what the Basij is. It's a different military faction. Now, if the Americans support essentially them, and they give them money and everything they need, with weapons and everything they can to be able to control themselves, they can essentially be the ones uprising against the IRGC, which is also an internal plan which is on the table. Another thing is, you have to understand the protesters out there in Iran have no way to fight when it comes to protesting, because the IRGC is loaded with guns and ammunition, and they're killing them. So if they would have guns and anything, Trump says they should have guns, and they'll be able to maybe fight themselves. Now, here's another thing. The IRGC is not interested in making a deal. You can't trust them. They're essentially, they're terrorists. You don't negotiate with terrorists. So this is the issue with the United States is dealing with right now, and that is why the blockade is happening, and that is why the also potential of taking Karg Island, which is a suggestion, obviously, might be a very, very well thought out strategy, which is going to bring Iran to its knees. And of course, not, not taking away the fact that the actual people on the ground need to be the ones overthrowing their government, their regime. The United States is putting pressure on China as well ahead of a major summit between President Donald J. Trump and the Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is pointing the finger at Beijing, saying China funds roughly 90% of Iran's energy sector, effectively keeping Iran's economy alive while the Middle East remains on edge. Bessent is now demanding China use that leverage to help and end the conflict. The summit, expected on May 14th and 15th, has not been without drama. There were earlier signs Trump might delay the trip entirely, but American military cargo planes have now been spotted at Beijing's main airport, suggesting the visit is moving forward. They're preparing, obviously, because they can't trust China's security. Still, the mood heading into these talks is anything but warm, and the US wants China to stop buying Iranian energy, and China, for its part, is pushing back, pressing its own demands over Taiwan. Both sides are arriving at the table with a list of grievances, and obviously a lot is at stake, as you can imagine. Mike Waltz, the United States ambassador to the United Nations, asked the UN Security Council to punish Iran for putting sea mines and controlling parts of the Strait of Hormuz. Thankfully, removing the mines is not going to be a one-man effort for the US. Germany and some Scandinavian countries may soon send help as well. And as well, the UAE just informed, he spoke with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and he said that Iran must be punished for what it's doing. Iran must be punished, and he thinks the US administration is being too light with them, too easy with them. You can't trust them. The US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs Chairman General Dan Kane held a press conference this morning about Operation Epic Fury, or now Operation Project Freedom. This is a large joint military operation led by the United States and Israel against Iran, launched on February 28th. As you can imagine, if you're not aware, if you're living under a rock, this is what's going on. Since Shabbat Zucher, there's been a major war that broke out, and Erev Shlish Pesach which is when they announced the ceasefire. It aimed to destroy Iran's missile system and, of course, nuclear and naval forces and air defenses. As of today, more than 10,000 targets have been hit. Now, America's latest strategy involves helping ships travel safely through the Strait of Hormuz. Hegseth said that the mission will only be temporary because he wants other countries to help protect the ships soon. Sure, there are still small attacks during the US-Iran ceasefire, but he says these are not big enough to start a new conflict. He explained, the ceasefire is currently holding, and we are closely monitoring the situation. However, Iran claims that the US is not following the ceasefire. Because of this, the situation is still tense and could become dangerous again. Hegseth still assured the public that the US strategy toward Iran is highly focused and precise. If Iran chooses to attack the US, they would know America's imminent and overwhelming power. The USS Tripoli, a large warship used by the United States Navy, is currently operating directly at the doorstep of Iran. Now in the Arabian Sea, it carries helicopters, fighter jets, and troops. It also helps soldiers move from the sea to land during military missions. This is also one of the things. Before, the US mostly used planes and missiles. With the USS Tripoli, you can also do ground operations and respond faster. This makes the conflict more serious and shows stronger military power. The Federal Bureau of Investigation arrested a Pennsylvania Senate candidate for a possible assassination threat toward Trump. His name is Raymond Chandler III, a Democrat running against Senator John Fetterman. Investigators say he left voicemails that encouraged violence. He now faces federal charges and was taken into custody last Friday. In another case, a federal judge apologized in court to a man accused of plotting to kill Donald J. Trump. Judge Zia Faruqi learned about, sorry about that, I didn't pronounce his name right because it's a very difficult name to pronounce, Faruqi. Zia Faruqi learned about how the suspect was treated badly in jail, so he told him, I'm sorry. 9 people were arrested outside Wyckoff Heights Medical Center. Wyckoff Heights Medical Center, excuse me. It's spelled with a Y, so W-Y-C. And this is in Brooklyn, during a protest against the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. ICE agents. If they call it nice, it'd be funny. The protest worsened because NICE officers went to arrest. I decided. I'm calling them NICE. NICE is national in whatever. The protest worsened because NICE officers went to arrest a man who was in hospital. He already had existing assault and drug charges, but it seemed the public did not know this. When people heard about it, a large crowd gathered. They blocked roads and hospitals' entrances, and during the arrest, the suspect tried to hit officers with his car and fought back. Outside, the situation got even worse. Protesters damaged ICE vehicles and refused to leave. Police then moved in and arrested 9 people. President Donald J. Trump has suggested that House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries could be impeached. He announced this possibly on Truth Social, where he said, quote, Hakeem Jeffries, a low IQ individual, said, our Supreme Court is illegitimate. After saying such a thing, isn't he subject to impeachment? I got impeached for a perfect phone call. Jeffries is the top Democrat in the U.S. House of Representatives. Trump comments comes after Jeffrey publicly criticized him and other Republicans in Congress, obviously. No formal impeachment process has obviously been started. Let's talk about Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, corruption trials resumed in court today. His lawyers asked the judges to cancel today's testimony, saying that he had urgent security meetings in Jerusalem that could not be moved. However, the judges refused to cancel the hearing completely. They did agree to shorten it. Instead of a full day, the session will run from 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m., which already happened. Tens and thousands of Yidden made their way up to Miran for Lag BaOmer despite the full government ban. The Hadluka was cancelled this year due to security concerns, they say, the threat of Hezbollah attacks and dangerous wind conditions that could spread fires, Chulil v'chas across the area. Security authorities declared the Hilila legally prohibited. The 3 official Hadlukas, the Biyana Rebbe's Hadluka, for the Chassidische Olim Rav Shlem Moshe Amar, for the Sfardische Kehillas and the Mizrachi circles were all called off. But Yidden, are being who they are, thousands came anyway. They climbed through fences and forests and fields, bypassed blockades, squeezed through partially open pedestrian entrances, a Strait of Hormuz, sort of, for them. I'm joking. Police set up heavy patrols, turned hundreds away, and warned that staying in the area without a permit is dangerous. Video spread of Yidden davening mincha in the surrounding fields, unable to get through. Several who slipped past checkpoints were found and escorted out. At least one person was detained, and Hatzula had to evacuate 8 people in all in light condition with weaknesses, fainting, and minor injuries. Shem Yishmael. National Security Minister Tamar Ben-Gvir came out and said he's done a full security review at Miran on Monday evening. Before he made this decision, he came to a conclusion with a plain message saying, going to the caver this year could be Pekich Nefesh, a real danger to life, and he urged everyone to stay home. Still, crowds, arrived. Police pushed them back. Ben-Gvir said that the police handled it, in his words, very gently. You can imagine what gently means. Some of the crowds there obviously responded by shouting Nazi at the officers. Gedolei Yisrael had also called on the Tzibur to stay home. Rabbi Shlomo Moshe Amar, the former Sephardic chief rabbi of Eretz Yisrael, said on Radio Kol Chai very clearly, even if there is only a suffix, even a possibility of danger, that alone is a reason enough not to go. In his words, obviously he added the halacha, when there's a question of Pekich Nefesh, you stay home. Harav Reb Yitzchak Zilberstein offered chizik for those who couldn't make the trip. He said, and these are his words, even if we cannot go to Rashbi, to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai can come to us. And obviously there was opposites who did call and cursed out the entire situation and said that Eden should go to Miran and should fight the police. So there's a conflict of interest in both areas. The point is like this, and today carries another weight, and which is why I'm ending obviously conflicts and stuff into a word of love, because we have to remember at the end of the day the tragedy that happened alongside the joy of today's Lag BaOmer. There's also a sadness in a lot of people's hearts today, especially those families of the 45 Kedoshim. The 45 Kedoshim that passed away on the night of Lag BaOmer in 2021, a terrible tragedy struck Har Miron, a crowd crush in a narrow passageway that turned into a stampede. 45 people, Yidden, Heilige Yidden, were killed, all HaKadosh Hashem. Around 150 more were injured terribly, and we do not forget them. We remember every single one of the 45 Kedoshim today, on this day of Lag BaOmer, Yehei Zichram Buch, mit Reb Shimon be a Melitz and them all be a Melitz for all of us. And we have to remember to keep Be'achtis, Kalal Yisrael, enough with all that conflicts and fights. Geneg. On Sunday evening, a group of Rabbunim gathered in Eretz Yisrael to speak out against certain military enlistment programs aimed at yeshiva bucherim. Obviously, as you can imagine, the group included the Rosh Yeshiva and members of the Me'etzes Gdolei HaTorah. They were brought together by Kehillah leaders from the south of Israel. They spoke out against programs such as Kod, a military intelligence track, and Malot Tzur, a technical training program. The Rabbunim said that these programs pull bucherim away from full-time learning Torah in yeshiva and push them across the red lines that Hasidic yeshiva students are expected to hold firm on. 2 Israeli soldiers were moderately wounded this morning in a clash with Hezbollah along the Litani River in southern Lebanon. After the fighting, Hezbollah released a map showing the route of the Israeli forces north of the Litani River. In the same area, Israeli troops destroyed a 30-meter Hezbollah tunnel and a large weapons room containing about 3 tons of explosives, along with bombs and anti-tank missiles. Separately, one of the divisions struck about 15 Hezbollah targets across southern Lebanon, including sites in Kafara, in Zafaria, in Nabatia, in Al-Fawaqwa, and all the other names that I cannot pronounce and I won't pronounce right now. A fire broke out at the UAE Fujairah oil industry zone after Iran sent drones to attack it. 3 Indian nationals were wounded there, and 2 more people were injured across the border in Oman. When the attack happened, residents across the UAE received emergency shelter alerts, and schools moved to remote learning centers, obviously. Both the UAE and Qatar restricted their airspace with formal warnings. Now they're saying, the Iranians, that they didn't mean to target them, it was just warning shots, according to a few sources. A military source, but at the same breath, they're also threatening the UAE with severe reactions, which they haven't done, supposedly, right? Another report came out, and the reporter asked Hexeth today if the Iranians are using something called a kamikaze dolphin. A shark, a type of made-up kind of artificial made-up fish that has laser beams and destroys and does like a kamikaze drone. A military source said that any irrational action from the UAE would make it a direct target. They also told Abu Dhabi not to become, quote, pawns of Israel. UAE officials called it the first significant attack since the ceasefire. Turkey is preparing to send a new flotilla towards Gaza. Israeli officials are trying to stop it through diplomatic talks, obviously, before it leaves. This effort comes after 2010 Mavi Marmar incident, where Israeli forces boarded a Turkish ship and heading to Gaza, and 9 activists were killed, leading to a major breakdown in Israeli-Turkey relations, obviously. Now Israel is quietly in contact with Ankara, asking Turkey to cancel this plan, obviously. In Paris, France, hundreds of Jewish doctors gathered for a major immigration fair. All of them are seriously exploring a move to Israel. It's important to note that these are not students. These are established medical professionals with careers and practices, but they are now actively planning to leave. France is home to roughly 450,000 Jews. Thousands have already been making Aliyah every year due to anti-Semitism that has been on the rise there. And Israel has set a goal of bringing 2,000 new physicians to the country over 5 years, and they're expected to strengthen Israel's medical workforce, particularly in the southern and northern regions, obviously. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is hosting a special summit at Downing Street specifically to address the rise of anti-Semitism in the country. As you all know, the terrible tragedy shook up our communities in Golders Green and whole of London. Since the stabbing attack that happened in Golders Green, and also the burning of the ambulances and other things that happened by these terrorist individuals. Now one of our listeners called in about a Belzebucher that was also attacked from yeshiva. So, I know you understand that there's the gravity of this situation, makes you be aware and be more afraid. And as one of my callers told me, that, don't make it so as bad as it is, because it's not so bad. Everything is great in London. He's right, and everyone is right to feel the way they feel. But at the same time, we don't be ignorant. But at the same time, don't be ignorant to the fact that you're a Jewish, and be proud to be Jewish. Don't be afraid. Be proud to be Jewish. They don't come after the proud ones. They come after the scared ones. That's what, the famous thing is with a dog. The dog runs after only those who run away from it. Don't run away. I mean, obviously, don't put yourself in danger and don't be stupid. But yeah, learn chovos avos and be safe. Okay? That's the idea. Hashem ish meviyat love us, all of us. What can I say? Alright, and I heard another thing that, by the way, Jewish schools and synagogues across the UK have also begun hiring former military soldiers. They will replace regular security guards and community volunteers who have no actual combat training, so at least from ex-military experts, they might have something. On Monday, in Leipzig, in Germany, a car drove into a crowd of people at a busy shopping street called Grimmische Straße. Police said several people were injured, and at least 2 people died. Emergency services arrived quickly and closed the area. The driver was arrested, and police are still investigating what happened and why. Protobite. Why? What is Protobite? Protobite is your address when you need to design custom-made software. 347-354-1237. Mention my name and get yourself a good deal. Russia and Ukraine have both announced a ceasefire this week, but they do not match each other. Vladimir Putin said Russia will stop fighting around May 9th on Victory Day, and the holiday marking the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany. Vladimir Zelensky announced a separate ceasefire starting 2 days earlier on his own terms. Neither side has agreed to the other's plan. Ukrainian officials say Russia's ceasefire is meant to protect Moscow from Ukrainian drone attacks during the holiday parade. Russia has not responded to this claim. Just before the ceasefire window was due to begin, Ukraine drones hit a luxury apartment building in Moscow during a large drone attack. Russia warned that if the ceasefire is broken, it could respond with major strikes on Kiev. Russia also launched drone attacks on Ukrainian Black Sea ports, damaging infrastructure used for grain and cargo exports. These ports are very important for Ukraine's economy and food exports. In Tuepse, residents say black toxic rain has fallen under Ukrainian drone strikes that hit oil facilities. People say fires released polluted smoke and rainwater was turned into black. Locals describe serious environmental damage, while the Kremlin hasn't even commented about it yet. Ukraine also reported a military first. Zelensky said Ukrainian forces captured an area using only drones and ground robots without sending in soldiers. We spoke about this a couple of days ago or weeks ago. Ukraine's ambassador to Israel, Yevgen Kornichik, said that Ukraine is starting criminal cases against traders and companies. Remember these two ships that arrived to the Haifa ports and they accused Israel of taking it from them? Basically, they are starting criminal cases against traders and companies accused of helping Russia avoid sanctions. He said the goal is prosecutions, not even warnings, though no Israeli companies were named, obviously. A new danger is starting in another area. Pirates from Somalia are now officially working together with the Houthis in Yemen. They are attacking business ships and oil ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis have been attacking ships in the Red Sea for more than a year now, though piracy of Somalia wasn't even active and was mostly stopped after the early 2000s. But it obviously now is on its way back. Coming back. Together, these groups are putting at risk very large amount of oil that moves by sea in that region, and it's affecting the economy, they say. In Buenos Aires, 2 Jewish institutions were attacked with homemade petrol bombs in the same week. Fortunately, no injuries or deaths have been confirmed, but Jewish groups in Argentina are now calling a full investigation. The city is now one of the largest Jewish communities in the world outside of Israel. A 47-year-old Jewish man was shot and killed on Thursday while walking in Wendeley Park in North York area of Toronto. His name was Daniel Stepnitsky. His Shem Yinkandume. He was shot and killed. Police identified now the shooter, a 67-year-old former Toronto police officer, who was charged with murder on Sunday. Investigators are now looking into whether the killing was anti-Semitically motivated. His funeral took place Sunday, departing from Benjamin Park Memorial Chapel. He was brought to burial at the Pardes Chaim Cemetery, which is in Toronto. In Queens, New York, someone spray-painted Heil Hitler and swastikas on several shuls and schools and homes overnight. One of the targeted locations was Congregation Machne Chudash in Forest Hills, where Yidden arriving for davening Shacharis Monday morning found hateful graffiti on the building. The NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force is investigating, and Mayor Zohar Ramadani came officially out condemning this attack and confirmed the probe on the social media. No arrests have so far been made. The vandalism came on the same day that NYPD released its April hate crime numbers of 50 confirmed hate crimes across all 5 boroughs last month. 30, which is 60%, were anti-Semitic. Commissioner Jessica Tisch noted that numbers had been higher early in the year and that April showed improvement compared to the same period in the past years. A large number of U.S. police officers have been deployed into the Williamsburg area last night and into today as well. For Lag BaOmer, both Chevra Hatzula and Shomrim have put out statements asking the community not to be alarmed. They say they are aware of the situation and are in full contact with authorities. The deployment appears to be connected to ongoing security concerns in the area, as well as obviously Lag BaOmer events, celebrations. But because it's expected to draw large crowds to the neighborhoods tomorrow and tonight, it is not yet fully clear whether there is also another specific threat involved, but officials are urging residents to remain calm and go about their evenings as normal, which is why they have this YS Capital Group. Why? Because if you need capital for your group for investment, 718-831-2168, which is why you call YS Capital Group. Call them, ask them about the no closing cost loan. It's a great loan. Global markets are under pressure. Oil prices have climbed around 126 a barrel, and Wall Street fell from its record high yesterday. Goldman Sachs warned that the world's oil supply is at its lowest point in 8 years and dropping fast. Meanwhile, Chevron CEO Mike Wirth warned that the world may soon not have enough oil to meet demand. He didn't say exactly when, and he doesn't know because he's not a Shem, and he thinks he knows he doesn't. Okay? Tati sitzt in seinem Platz. Just don't stay, yeah. And we already know that Britain is already dealing with a jet fuel shortage and is working to bring in more from the United States and the refinery in Nigeria. Okay, IMF chief Christiana Gorgi something also sounded the alarm. The IMF, the global body that monitors the world's economy, laid out 3 scenarios: a so-so outlook, a worse one, and a very, very bad one. She was direct. If the war continues into 2027, the damage into the global economy could be severe. The longer it drags on, she said, the worse the outcome for everyone. Well, she's not learning clovers of us. What does she know? Israeli scientists have created something that has never been done before, a full digital map of a healthy human liver. The work was done by teams from the Weizmann Institute of Science, Sheva Medical Center, and also the Mayo Clinic. They built a digital atlas that shows every major cell type and structure inside the liver. One important discovery is that human and mouse livers are much more different than scientists used to think it is. That's a big deal because most liver research has been done on mice. Scientists say this map could change how doctors understand and treat fatty liver disease, which affects hundreds of millions of people around the world. Doctors at Hadassah Medical Center in Jerusalem have carried out... Now this is bad. Why am I seeing women's feet on my feed? Doctors at Hadassah and Kerem in Yerushalayim have carried out a medical first in Israel. A woman with a disease called Gorham-Stout disease, a condition where the bone slowly and permanently disappears, had her leg lengthened by 8 centimeters. Doctors used a custom 3D printed implant made to match her exact body. The leg bone had already been broken down, so the implant replaced the missing structure. Only a few hundred cases of this disease are known worldwide. This is the first time this type of surgery has been done in Israel. Arrive Express 845-622-1111. Arrive Express 845-254-1111. Have yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see each other best tomorrow.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.